How's it going, everybody? Um, how's it going? Finally figured out what's going on with the live stream and the camera, and it's because of how YouTube is uploading the audio and how it's uploading the video feed, and the video feed is taking more data to load, so that's why they're off sync when I speak versus so forth. So tonight's topic is going to be about analog gear versus software plugins. Do it really doesn't really matter? And we probably talked about this topic. This topic has been talked about on the internet. I don't know, probably hundreds and hundreds of times. And there are going to always be people that are going to prefer analog gear, and then there's going to always be people that prefer in the box with plugins. Then there's going to be people that prefer a combination of both. So hey, what's going on, Brian? Um, Welcome, Maddie. How's it going? I'm good. I'm good. Just working on finishing mixing the some more tracks. So that's what I'm in the middle of what I'm doing right now, which I'm gonna go right back to because I gotta do another song created, for was gonna go with 8 songs, we decided to make it 10. So that's what I'm doing now. But talking about analog versus plugins, I'm gonna tell you, honestly, this is just my opinion. Everything, whether it's software plugins or you're going to use outboard gear, is nothing but a choice. Each outboard gear or each plugin is going to have its own sound and flavor, and you can make a choice to use the software, or you can make a choice to make use a piece of hardware. Um, there are downsides to both, really. For example, when it comes to computers and Macs and PCs and softwares, that stuff can become corrupt and this program cannot work. Well, the pro to having software, especially plugin, is if you buy one particular compressor EQ, you get, when you buy that compressor, you got as many as you want. Let's say you want to put a Pultec style EQ plugin, you can put that over 100 tracks, as many as your computer can handle. You can't do that with a real unit. With a real Pultec unit, you can only use it in one. So you have to decide where I'm going to use that real piece of gear. So this is probably one of the main reasons why you see recording studios with a lot of outboard gear, because if they're processing 24 to 32 channels and they need a lot of processing per channel, you can imagine that's 32 pieces of outboard gear. Especially when plugins were non-existent, right? Plugins didn't exist. Welcome, DL. I'm good. I'm good. Just talking about analog versus software. I don't think this is one of those subjects that probably need to go away, because it's 2025, and I'm at the stage where plugins or hardware, both of them are good. That's just where I'm at today when it comes to plugin or hardware. The only downside to software is a lot of times that stuff can become outdated. It can become outdated. Your PC or your Mac, the operating system, whatever the case, because if they update the operating system, a lot of old stuff probably won't work, which sucks, especially if you invest and you buy a lot of software. And then they upgrade it, just like Mac going to their latest operating system, because Mac upgrade their operating system like every 18 months. And on PC, they're going to Windows 11 now. So Windows 10 is pretty much gone, right? So Um, the thing with hardware, the only thing I have a problem with hardware, um, every now and then a piece of gear may, a channel or something might go out. But believe it or not, the biggest failures that I've noticed with me having my hardware is cables. I just, I wish I had a lot more better cables because I went the cheap route when, because that's a lot of cables for what I was doing. Um, so I'm paying the price because I'm finding out I'll plug something or patch something in, and all of a sudden the channel doesn't work or whatever the case may be, and it turns out to be bad cables. And these cables are up to 15 to 20 feet long cables, but it happens. So anyhow, welcome CC Funk. And everyone that's tuning in tonight. Like I said, we're just, if y'all want to weigh in on it, I'll tell you, this is gonna be it can be a controversial because they're gonna people on here, they're gonna say no, analog is better. And then there are gonna be people that come over here and say no, software is better, plugins are better. There are gonna be people that's gonna come on here and say, well, I don't know why you need a bunch of outboard gear. I can get everything done with plugins. Then you have people here that said, no way, there's no way in the world plugins are gonna sound as good as outboard or real gear. It becomes, and I think I've made my thoughts on this. I think when it comes to software, I think the only thing that's really hard for plugins to emulate is, in my opinion, are really good preamps. A lot of people will use their preamps in their interface, but if you want, to me, and this is my opinion, if you want high quality vocals, as an example, you want a pretty decent, preamp. A lot of times, most of the preamps in interfaces, they don't have enough warmth and color to them. They don't have enough, that goodness that we like to listen to when we listen to vocals. Um, that's when it comes to when it comes to preamps, you can probably get away with EQs, compressors, and even reverbs and delays when it comes to software. But it's hard to beat a good um mic preamp. That's just that they're just not there with they're just not there when it comes to uh the preamps and the plugins. They're just not there. So um so this Platinum Baby Live, and he was saying that they don't use it a lot. Everyone is a lot of analog. They use plugins to make up. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like what we were talking about the last live stream where I think there was I was watching a video. Welcome Ojela Pix. And I was watching a video where they was trying to say about people's recording studios and all that and so forth. And he was basically trying to say, you only need outboard gear. This is my thought of it. It made it sound like I got a lot of outboard gear because I do this professionally. And but a lot of people that don't do it professionally don't need. I'm like, that ain't true. Um, when it comes to outboard gear, if you got the money for it and you want outboard gear, whether you're doing this professionally, mixing or recording for other clients, or you want to do it for yourself, if you can afford it, that's all going to be choice. If you want to have a lot of outboard gear because you prefer outboard gear, you don't need to not buy it because someone says don't buy it. So let's see. Well, anyhow, welcome everyone's chiming in. Dio says this topic is right up my alley. I need or want filters, hardware or software. Which filters are best? You talking about like EQ filters? Are we talking about EQ filters? Just want to make sure I'm making sure that makes am I reading it right? So But yeah, anyhow, let me see. I'm missing some yeah, I'm not gonna read everybody's comments because everybody a lot of people tune in. See someone say I don't have a lot of plugins. Yeah, I got a lot of them. Like me, I have a lot of them, but I got a lot of both. Because plugins are definitely way more affordable to buy and get, especially bundle deals and all that, than actual hardware. Uh so um welcome to Mix Club. Um Okay, let me see what Mix Club says. I think if you're tracking off the floor, then for me, though, it's through a console and whatever outboard I have to hit with it. But mixing is whatever. It all works for yeah. Um, and really, you think about it, there are commercial studios today that still invest in consoles, especially analog consoles. Very few have digital consoles. A lot of them have analog consoles. Um, there's always a sonic character when you run through a console. That's just period. I don't, whether it's an SSL, a Neve, an API, Helios, MCI, it's the sonic character of those consoles. And then everything else becomes just outboard gear. Like for me, um, outboard gear through a console, it's just there's a character to it. The only thing that I would say I would think that 90+% of us are not using is tape machines. Even though, in my honest opinion, when it comes to the best saturated warm colors, sound, and tones are a tape machine with a console and outboard gear. When I go back and listen to all the classic radios from records from the 90s, 80s, the 70s, that's the way it was done. And that's the majority of the music that I listen to. Because digital and outboard gear and plugins didn't really become really, really popular until after the 2000s. And a lot of recording studios had to switch from using tape machines as their main recording source to a some sort of audio interface, an Avid HD 192 or something like that. But everyone was going into a Mac, or pretty much, and the standard DAW everyone started using was Pro Tools. But anyhow, welcome, like I said, welcome everybody. Oh yeah, Maddox who says hardly any of us do this professionally, and this is true. Well, there are people out there that still do it professionally, but I'm not, unless I got some high-end clients coming to my house, which I don't. I'm doing it independently like a lot of people, so oh, he says Mix Club says if not tracking a band, I don't even tack with a console. I just for workflow for me. Gotcha. Like for me, I have a couple of setups. I got one downstairs. Both of them are consoles. And then I got a little tiny setup in my dining room because I went gas crazy. Which I hardly ever use. But I just I guess I started on consoles. That's why it's easy for me. I prefer to work on a console because I started on consoles. So that's the way I like touching real sliders and faders and buttons and stuff like that. Even though it's fun to work with plugins and stuff, work in the box. It can, because you're getting this, you're getting pretty much the same results. If you know what you do, if you know what you're doing, you'll get the same results. You'll get pretty much the same results. But it's a feel thing. I like being able to go back there and patch in actual real gear and turn some real knobs instead of pulling up a program trying to say, I got so many plugins I forgot which plugin it's because you're like, oh man, I forgot about that plugin. Because I started buying tons and tons of plugins. I probably got 1,000 on this, and there's probably 700, 800 on this, even on this older PC I got right here. That's about 700 plugins on there. I was like, sheesh. Um, so, uh, oh, you said mix on the console. You start talking about tracking. Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, like even me, I'm not tracking a band myself. I just because I only use about 3 or 4 channels to because I only record 1 or 2 things at a time. So let's see what else. So um welcome Don Gordy, 95. Uh salute. Um so I'm just talking about, like I said, for me in 2025, everything when it comes to what we're doing in music now is perfect, is basically a choice now. There are still people out there that are trying to say certain things are better. And what I find funny now is when I'm watching YouTube, and when I get on YouTube, I see videos, and most of these videos are because most of these people that make these videos are sponsored or they're getting some sort of incentive, right? So they'll make a video like, "Don't buy this plugin until you watch this video," or something like that, all right? Or mixing secrets, or whatever the case may be. Um, or they'll say whatever, anything to get you to watch the video. I've even seen videos where they'll do a tier video. I wanted to comment on it. There was a guy that made a video that he was trying to put certain preamps in certain categories and then try to say some preamps are just subpar that you better off using your interface. And I'm like, okay. So a lot of these videos are biased. I've seen videos that I sit there and say, even some of the gear that I own is substandard, and I know better. I know better. Or whatever the case. So, um, so really, in today's age, everything is a choice. So it's a choice. It really is. Welcome, Scott. Welcome, bass player only. Um, so DLC, you see, I saw that video. Yeah, because I guarantee, yeah, as when he's coming to these videos, I guarantee when they pop up my feed, they probably pop up on your YouTube feed too. If you're like me, when you're not like people that aren't watching my live stream right now, they're other videos that pop up and you click, or I'm guaranteed people are subscribed on other channels that I like. People probably watch like Barry Johns and whenever he pops up and make a video, or Colt Kaepernick, or whatever the case. Welcome Spawn. Um, so bass player only says I used hardware on my bus only and master, but in line I use plugins, which is actually whatever works. If it works, it works. I'm people know me. If you know me by now, I'm never going to criticize unless only time every now and then I'll get a video, or I'll get somebody to make a comment that will tick me off. But that very hardly ever happens. But I do every now and then I get one, and I have to now I got to go and get rid of that person. But overall, I would say, if it's working, if you're using on your Master Buzz and hey, I use plugins on some of my channels. I don't always patch in the gear. Sometimes I'm like, oh no, like for example, CLA's Echosphere, whatever the case may be. Did I call it Echosphere? Is it called Echosphere? I gotta go back and look at the name of the plugin again. It's a Waves plugin. I'll use that every now and then. So, the object is whether we're plugins or hardware are tools, and sometimes you may not have a piece of hardware that you're trying to get a result, but you might have it in plug-in. I'm gonna tell you right now, no one's gonna hear that plugin and say, "Oh, you used the plugin on channel 7 in your mix." No one's that they're in a person. There's no one that's got Steve Austin ears. And if y'all don't know who Steve Austin is, y'all have to Google who Steve Austin is. But so salute, yep. Oh, I did say salute. Spawn, yep. Oh, bass player, but my vocal chain is hardware. I use my number one vocal one is my Avalon, but I'm gonna try recording vocals through my Tone Beast, and I'm gonna try recording vocals through my 73s over there and my 610. I want to, some different just to try um to see how that's gonna come out. So I also want to try the vocals on my Joe Meek preamps over there and see how those come out. So oh, it says I've been messing with my Focusrite ISA one on my vocals, but I'm so lazy. It's just been sitting. I get you. Sometimes it's like I got some gear I hadn't used. I got some gear in the rack I hadn't used yet. So I'm like, so uh it just depends. Oh, thanks. He said I got some nice hardware. I appreciate it. Thank you. So and the thing is, I will admit, everyone, I still got a gas problem. That's another thing uh that's another problem that I got, because here's another thing about watching YouTube videos. When people do demonstration videos of a piece of gear that you may be interested in, you don't own one, and someone do it, you're like, I'm getting that. And then you really, I have to, or that's why I had to stop buying plugins, because someone would do a plugin like, oh man, don't, these are the 5 top plugins you need in your mix. And I'm like, I don't own any of those plugins. Then I realized, if I buy them, am I going to use them? And half the time, it's like I still got a subscription to Slate. I paid the $14.99. I still haven't been using any of those plugins. And I know for a fact Slate makes some killer plugins. I just don't, because I'm up here. I'm always going to the outboard gear that I just don't use any of those plugins. And I'm like, Mark, you got 1,000 plugins and you're not using them. So that's why I said I got to stop buying plugins. So I think I was talking about this. Someone asked me a while back, what's my favorite plugins? Believe it or not, my favorite plugin company is IK Multimedia. Um, I use them a lot. I like Acoustica Audio, but I don't use their plugins enough, because for some reason I try to use Acoustic Audio plugins. It wants to start my, whatever the case. So I am in the process of looking for um a Mac with an M2 or M3 or M4 chip. Um because I've heard that if you're going to do, especially a lot of stuff that's going to be plug-in heavy, you want a serious Mac like that can process those kind of, because plugins do a lot of processing. So that's my goal, because I got an old cheese grater Mac sitting right here. It's an older one. And but the reason why I hadn't really been upgrading my PC or Mac and all that, because I use outboard gear. So it's not killing my computer. Right. So welcome Rockport Tigger. Right Sound Studios. Okay, welcome tuning in. Thanks for joining. And Legacy Shredder, which is Man Network. Welcome. My name has always been Man Network, but some live stream shows is like, yeah. I mean, I know who, I know when I see Legacy Shredder or Man Network, I know who it is. So oh yeah, okay. He said, oh yes, bass players. I've tried Waves. I don't I prefer Slater, because here's the thing, when I'm like with you, bass player, only. Naturally, when it came to plugins, Waves were one of the first to start that in way, 20 something years ago. Waves was the main one of the main ones, right? But as more plugins start coming out, we're talking Isotope, we're talking IK Multimedia with their T-Rax. You start seeing more and more plugin companies, Fab Filter, um, and so forth. A lot of these companies and these guys that were modeling these plugins started getting better and better and better. And you notice with these other companies, they were modeling their plugins that actually start looking like actual rack outboard gear that would be in a recording studio. So like with Waves, it would just look like software. Like it'd be a compressor, but it looked like software. And but then you have a company like Slate or Sound Toys or whatever that would make a compressor that actually looks like 1176, and they would model it to behave like an actual 1176. So um so that, because the plugins were actually that they were making or modeling, they started sounding better. So I kind of was the same way. I hadn't bought any Waves plugins in years. So um and so yep. Let's see. Like says use your gear, make cool music. A diamond's too lazy to shine if it's just cold, right? Gotcha. In other words, I gotcha. Jeez, I'm okay. Here, Deal says I saw on Sweetwater a sale for a BA 1073 mic pre with EQ 5600. Um, I'm like this because they're going to be people out there. They're going to say the BAs, the Holy Grail. They're trying to even try to say the BAs even more Holy Grail than the actual need 1073. But I'm like this. I got a Heritage Audio 73, and your vocals are going to sound amazing running through that preamp is about 899. There's just no reason to spend $5,600. Just really isn't, unless you want to have a BAE in your. Because I promise that kind of price point, you're only going to have one. Unless you want to go on, $1 million debt like these multi-million dollar studios and go multi, mounds of debt, or your pockets are deep. $5,600. You know what? For $5,600, I can buy about 7 to 8 pieces of gear for the price of that one preamp. So I just don't see that. Not when they're a lot of these clone companies are getting pretty much the exact same results at a fraction of the cost. Um, Even Behringer with their 73, which is only $699, whatever, will get you amazing results over spending $5,600. You're not going to hear $5,600 worth of in a mix. You're not. Dio says, "Man, network changes that." No, no, it's legacy shredder, but it's just it's still legacy shredder. So let's see. All right, moving on. Right Sound Studio. Shout out to the old cheese. One thing I can say about this cheese grater, because I got two of them. I just wish, I think the other one's got still got Mountain or as its operator. It's that old, and this one right here is got high Sierra um on it. It's that ought to tell you something. But let me tell you, the way these cheese graters are built, these Macs, these tower cases are way more. The quality of these cases are, to me, are way better than any PC. If I open this Mac and then the way it's built, and I open up my PC tower over here, this Mac is way better. Period. Even though I'm a PC guy, but that Mac is better. The quality. Um. So Oh, it says, "Oh, respond." See, but your old Pro Tools give you a lot of plugins. I've never been a Pro Tools guy. People know me. I use Studio One. I use Cakewalk. I use the whole every dog but Pro Tools. So I'm not gonna, I don't comment on Pro Tools because I'm just not a Pro Tools user. Um, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was saying about us. For them that's $5,600 for a BAE. If I'm going to spend $5,600 on a preamp, I'm going to get a Neve. You best be. I'm looking for a Neve. Period. I'll look for a Neve before I look for a BAE. Period. Period. Um. So let's see what else. Oh yes, Bryce said I have one. I use it as a backup server. The thing will never. I love it. Like I said, and I got these Macs from a friend of mine out of Colorado. He sent me a couple of these Macs because I didn't have Mac. I just had PCs. I've never had any issues. A lot of people, I hear so many people that have tons of issues with their PCs when it comes to music and all that. But I've never. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe one of the things I do when I go in a PC is I disable a lot of unnecessary running programs because Microsoft was notorious for. You ever notice if you open up a Microsoft like an MSN web page, they got too much stuff going on. It's too much JavaScript going on. Versus if you open up Google, you don't know. You ever look at Google? Google's pretty basic because they don't have all that JavaScript stuff loading up and tacking down the operating system because it's trying to load in a bunch of, you got flashy ads, all over the place on MSN and Microsoft. So, but when it comes to PC, I just go in there and I say, well, no, don't need that program. Let me, even on the startup, I go on PC and I'll go in there and start menu and no, I don't need that running. No, I don't need that running. Oh, that's unnecessary. That's what I do. So I know this, so that way when I'm running stuff, it won't be running in the background or trying to run simultaneously while I'm trying to do whatever, because your computer's trying to process all that. So, but as I look forward to as I continue to future proof my studio, I am moving more and more toward Macs. So, which means I most likely won't be using Cakewalk that much anymore. Since Cakewalk has now gone back to Sonar anyway, I'm going to switch fully to Studio One. So yeah, he said a lot of people and PCs do give a lot of people problems, but I don't know. I've been fortunate with PCs. I've been fortunate with PCs. So, and believe it or not, Teddy Riley is a PC user. He's not a Mac user. He's a PC user. But Macs, even when I'm sitting here, this old cheese grid right here, and I'm using the old version of Logic Pro, it's rock solid. I gotta give Mac props on that. They're rock solid. So, yeah, I think, that most people, I would say 90+% of people, even on watching now or on the channel, will have um a PC, or I mean a Mac. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're gonna do PC, you want a powerful PC, and the most powerful PCs to get if you really want to do music, it's probably a gaming PC, a gaming one, because gaming PCs are workhorse because of what they're doing. So but anyhow, moving on. So going back to the original subject we was talking about. Another thing that I'm when it comes to, I saw a video on, I was watching the videos talking about what should you upgrade in your recording studio. And I would say, I'm not going to sit there and say I'm not going to sit there and say the obvious stuff that you should do in your recording studio Um, because I have, and if people watch my videos, I have one of the worst acoustically looking rooms, even though it works extremely well in here. And acoustically, physically, or the acoustic psychophysics of how the acoustic is supposed to work here is not supposed to work at all, but it does. And the same way when I'm doing stuff downstairs, ironically, it works. I think one of the things is because I don't have any of my studio monitors against a wall to create these ridiculous, wall reflections from behind the monitors. But I would say, in my opinion, other than stuff like the simple, obvious stuff like acoustic panels or whatever, I use it, of course, naturally PC, and all that, a good interface. But I'm going to sit there and say, if you're not using headphones, one of the best upgrades you can do is monitors. Which I am so glad I upgraded my monitors. So for those that don't know, if you don't know, I was running when I was running for a long time. I still have my Alesis Monitor 1s because those are the closest to NS10s. But I was running the JBL 305s for a long time. And I was also running the Behringer Truths, the B2031-31As, which, believe it or not, for Behringer, that's probably one of Behringer's best studio monitor. It's accurate, and it's very, very affordable. It costs 1/20th of the price of the monitors I got now. You get a pair of two. But the problem with those Behringers is they're known to the high end. There's a problem with the high end going out. So I switched to the Callis. I got the Cali these are the 8-inch, which is the 8-inch version 2s. I just got those. Amazing monitor. I see what was the hype about the Callis. But also, I picked up a pair of the Atom A88Hs, which, yes, those are kind of pricey monitors, about $1,600 a piece, but they are worth the upgrade. Now I see why everyone likes Atom. But the monitors that there are a couple more set of monitors that I would like to get. There are the Dynaudio Core 47, which is also another pair of monitors. I can afford the Dynaudios. But the Atom ATCs that I've been in a lot of studios with, the Atom ATCs, those are out of my price range. Even the Atom SCM 25As are still running about 10 grand. Yeah, but those, what I like, now I understand why the more expensive monitors, now I know why. Because when you listen to higher quality monitors, you don't have to have $10,000 ATCs, but if you have higher quality monitors, your decision making and your mixing and your stereo image will become a lot more accurate for you to make decisions. Like, you're not going to say, oh, cheaper monitors, you might not say, oh, the mid-range on this guitar, I'm boosting 2500 of or 2K, I'm boosting 3Bs, because you don't hear it on two-way cheap monitors. But on three-ways with mid-range, you can hear it. It will stick. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, let me cut that out. Man, that's that. Let me cut a little 20. Well, I didn't realize that guitar was that piercing. And what happens is, when you have accurate monitors, you don't have to worry about jumping in your car and if it's gonna translate. This is why now it makes sense. It really absolutely makes sense. When you have really good studio monitors in a good treated room, you make better recording and mixing decisions. You really do. Now you're like, oh, I was pumping my compressor. I was running 4-to-1 or 5-to-1, or maybe even I was limited. I was running 21 or whatever, and I didn't need to do that. I didn't realize it was squashing that bass that heavy. Maybe I need to back it from 8 to 1 to 4 to 1. But you won't hear that without hearing every possible. So that was one of the best things I did. Um, um, Now, when I was recording tracks, because I'm so used to working in recording studios, I kind of have an idea where I want to set everything. So a lot of sounds I just got lucky, and I will say that. But I have cheat templates too. Um, I know people probably know that. Like I'll have little cheat templates of saying like, where should I? Like I have my little cheat chart right here. How should I mix my vocals? I want to add 200 here, but I want to cut 350 there or whatever. I always start with a good. If I'm working on something, let me start in that area. So even when I was mixing on those Behringer Trues, I would always use cheap references, even for compression. What's a good compression for drums? Like 5 to 1 on a kick, right, or something like that. I want a kind of this kind of attack with this kind of release and so forth. That's what I was doing. So the kicks and all that would sound pretty. But let me tell you, it's better to hear it than to guess because you're using templates. It's better to be actually hear it. So, but Dio says, how would you rate the Mackie HRA24s monitors or Genelec? If you can get the Genelec 1031s for sure, but I have Mackie HRA24s downstairs in my front room. That's what I have in my front room is the Mackies. Once again, they're nice two-way monitor. But I would sit there and say, if you get Genelecs, and you don't even have to get the Genelec because those can still be pricey. But you'll definitely be able to improve it even if you got the Cali, even if you got the 5-inch Calis, you would like those. Even though 5 inches kind of depends on how big your room is. Fives may be a little too small if your room is like in here, this room, 5-inch monitors are too small for this room. But 8 inches are perfect for this room. So it really depends. Oh, right. Sounds you said Adams. Items are not. Yeah, I like them. I love them Adams. I'm glad I bought them. So let me see what I want to see. Oh, DL says, do I use Avaton speakers? No, I do not. I don't have any Avaton speakers. Oh. So let me see. Oh yeah, some people there's some people that do use let me finish drinking my milk because it got room temperature. Now, there are people that still mix on two-way monitors, which you get amazing results with them. But I just hear things a little bit more accurately with having a three-way monitor. Now that I'm using three-way monitors, I said, okay, now I know why pros use three-way monitors. I know why now. Welcome Tactical MIDI. I'm just talking about analog versus software plugins. Does it really matter? Does it really? And like I said earlier when I was talking about in a video, in 2025, not really. It's all choice. That's it's all choice. Now, there are preferences to the choices. Like for me, I like hardware. That's why I got a lot of it. I like hardware. But also not playing devil's advocate, but I like plugins. And if that sounds crazy. So, because I go back and forth between the two. So it really, what's the best way I can describe it? The only thing, the only thing I can sit there and say, uh, the only thing I can say is one thing about plugins over hardware is that plugins, if you listen to enough plugins, almost every plugin seems will be lacking a little bit of, and it's because, and now is it noticeable in the mix? Probably not, but they will. You know, the thing is, most people that listen to music are not even listening to music on high quality anything anyway. Most people listen to, you know how most people listen to music now? One of these. That's how they listen to music. They'll play on the speaker, on you know, they won't even plug in and get a good set of headphones. Some people put on some earbuds. But listen to earbuds is definitely going to be better than listening to the speaker on your Android or your iPhone. But that's, you know, whatever the case, they're judging what they're listening through the speaker of this. I'm like, you're not going to hear the full profile and everything with listening to a speaker on this. You need to listen to an actual stereo system. And then some people say, well, I'm gonna go listen to the car. Well, here's the problem with cars. Most cars, even though you can have a car, you can put, some people put an aftermarket system in the car, but the problem is when it comes to car systems or even an aftermarket car system, they never think about getting the system to actually be acoustically right in the car. They always overcompensate. And you know, when the one thing that most people do when they overcompensate in the car system is having 5,000 watt 18-inch subs in the trunk. So all you really hear is just low end. And you got these, whatever the case, you don't have enough mid range or everything else. It just, that's the problem with car systems. I'm not saying everyone's car system, but that's usually what happens in the car system. So let me see. So did I miss a few? Oh yeah, Rice Sound Studio says hardware all day, every day, but I can't have 7 LA2As, so software is good. Yeah, I figure. Here's the thing though, you can actually have 7 LA2A clones for the price of one LA2A. Well, excuse me. Oh, someone said, who was that? Somebody talking about having all the speakers will get trouble with the landlord. Thank God I don't have a landlord. That's the one thing I can say. Thank God I don't have a landlord. Like I said, get rid of the landlord. So, but here's the thing about outboard gear over plug-in. You know, one thing about gear, especially real gears, it's resellable. Most of it is. So most people just like, I don't need to buy your plugins. People go, well, I don't need to buy plugins. I already got plugins. It's hard to sell plugins. Most people just don't sell plugins because they like, you can't, because plugins are licensed, whatever. But most people are looking for outboard gear if they're looking to buy gear or reverb or whatever. Oh, Legacy says, I'm a hardware guy through and through. I got all the big hitter pieces. And a lot of them plugins are great. Don't get in debt to make great. Yeah, that's the only thing. Is because I started on hardware and gear, I prefer actual real pieces of gear too. But not everyone will financially be able to, own an SSL or with, all the big heavy outboard pieces of gear with all the top notch mics. Most people are just, we're talking millions of dollars of gear. Most people just are not in that position financially. So plugins are the alternative. All right, sounds let me see. Okay, let me see. Gotcha. Okay. So uh oh, deal something about Jermaine Dupri. Okay, got it. About his car, gotcha. Um Matthew says, I'm gonna get that Lin 2A before too long. Yeah, because what's happening is these even with companies like Lindell Audio, they're eventually gonna go up in price. I got two Lin 2As. I use them on vocals and I use them on bass. Um, but eventually they're gonna go any of this outboard gear, even the people that make the um the more affordable gear is eventually creeping up, as you probably saw. Um, well, you remember, you probably know the Behringer 369. It started off at $499. Now it's $609 on Sweetwater. Um, Dio's asking, does anyone have any filter plugins that sound good? I'm considering 3 at a time. When you say filter, are we talking about EQ filters? What I want filters, Dio, are you talking about? Are we talking about like EQ filters, like high pass and low pass filter EQs? Um, Believe it or not, Nova makes a really. If you're looking for a good EQ that's free, you can get it. The Nova makes a EQ with a high pass, low pass filter that's actually really good, and it's free. So, a bass player. So, what do I think of these clones, and what are good? Was a good one for you? Believe it or not, majority of the clone companies. I'm not gonna say all of them because when I had, I don't have all of them. But I put like this: every clone company that I got, I have zero issues with them. Um, I have the Clark Technique 76s. I have the Lindell Audios. I have those are called Outrons, but they're Neve 1073 preamp style clone. I also have the Warm Audio Tone Pieces, which is a really good. The only pieces that I got are that were probably actual authentic pieces, and especially like the Avalon 737s. I do have that. I have a Universal Audio 610. I do have some Joe Meek preamps, but a lot of other gear I have are clones. So I use them all the time. So I don't have any issues with them. The only issues I've been having is every now and then I find out I get a bad cable, but that's just some of these cables just cheap. And I'm just upgrading with better quality cables, like Mogami cables, stuff like that. Okay, so Spawn's asked me, why does everyone want a UA? I think you believe it or not, when we did the A Different Taste album in the 90s, we went to a studio that had a Newman U87. And I think it's just a microphone that's been well known as a staple vocal microphone. So it's like anything, it's kind of like when people hear about pieces of gear, a Newman U87, a Newman 47, a 67, the Newman M49s and Newman M50 microphones, KM84s. You hear about those microphones. You hear about Royal 121s and Royal and so forth. You hear about the RCA 22 ribbon microphones. You hear about Neve 273s. You hear about the API 312s and so forth, or the API 550 EQs, or an SSL 4000 console, because you hear about all this gear, right? And because they became staple pieces in hundreds of recording studios, so everyone wants one because they've heard it. You've heard it. You probably heard a U87 on probably a million records as a vocal microphone. But they use it more than just vocals. They use it for room mics, drum overheads, They use it on drum kits. They use it in front of a guitar cabinet. Um, so it's just one of those microphones that's really, really popular. It's like with the AKG C414. So I think that's what it is. But now, just like we were talking about with outboard gear, there are over literally probably 150 microphone companies. They keep coming out with more microphone companies. I can't even keep up with the name of the amount of microphone companies, ranging from Warm Audio, the Golden Age, to you name it. And everyone's come out, even with this Dockman 87 clone, that's about $700 because a Newman U87 is about 35 to 4 grand. So I think that if you want a UA7, which is it's a good vocal mic, but it doesn't work on everything. Sometimes you want a 281, sometimes you want a 67 on vocals. 281s tend to be a little brighter. But like me, a microphone that I use, to me, I've used it and compared it to a U87, listen to the tone quality with my Rode NT2A. And I have no problem using my Rode NT2A to get the same results if I had a Newman U87. So Scott says, I used almost every software compressor out there, but I got better results with a DBX 166 XL. Yeah, I got a couple of those ones. I like those compressors. Whether it's because it sounds better or just more of using my ears to sound. Like I said, I have a couple. I got a DBX 166 up here in the rack. I got one downstairs. So I like that. I like that compressor too. And I'm going to be a little bit more biased toward the hardware over the software. People know I use plugins, but it's for some odd reason when I'm running signal through actual hardware, it tend to sound better. So, Dia says yes, EQ filters like the filter section. Gotcha. Okay, I got you now. So yeah, like I said, Nova makes a really good one. But there's so many of them. Where do you start when it comes to finding a good plugin? Even an SSL channel strip. If you get the SSL channel strip plugin, the EQ filter section on there, that's what made SSL stellar. Is their SSL consoles are really well known for their bus compressor and their EQs. This is the reason why the SSL console shines so much. SSL really wasn't really known for their preamps like a Neve or an API, but people like the SSL because of that EQ and especially the filters. So it depends on how much you want to filter, how much you trying to filter out high pass filter, you trying to filter out 100 hertz, 80 hertz, 50 hertz, depends on what you're trying to filter. Or even a low pass filter, you're trying to filter anything like over 8K because you're getting simulants or whatever. I'm trying to, on a low pass filter, okay, I'm gonna filter out 10K or 12K, whatever. And as you get older like me, you don't even hear 20K anymore. News flash for everyone: as you get older, your higher frequencies tend to go away. It's a fact of life. So when you get a U8089, I think that has five instead of just three different things. And I got you. So okay. Quest says, will the impact of AI music producer have on the price? It's like anything else. AI to me is starting to spiral out of control. It's gotten so bad now. I'll be watching YouTube videos with these AI stuff, and they'll be like, and it's AI because all of a sudden somebody be sitting on their porch playing with a baby, and all of a sudden a tiger just popped through the it'll pop through the fence, and like about to attack the baby, and all of a sudden this little tiny house cat saves the family. And I'm like, trust me, a tiger's, and the cat's, scaring off the tiger that it runs back out the no that or a bear or something like that or an alligator. Just like no, a tiger is not definitely not scared of it. You know, tiger is not even scared of lions because tigers are way bigger than lions. You think they're scared of a cat? A tiger would maul a cat. That'd be like that's like that would be the a tiger a cat to a tiger would be like the you know how when you go to a restaurant they say hey here's the main course but would you like some snack before you get like some cheese sticks or whatever before you eat the main course that's what that cat would be to that tiger. It's like eating some cheese sticks. So, yeah, that's how bad AI has gotten. Or these people yelling at cops. It's AI or a cat is stealing some food out of a grocery store. It's a cat. He's running with running out the store until it's too late. Yeah, that's AI. It's just ridiculous. So AI is getting out of control. So you imagine how bad it is where people are creating songs with AI now that you can't even tell it's AI did everything. So let's see. Secret Studios all the way. Which 300 series stereo keys might you recommend? 500 series. I know DBX makes some really good EQ 500 series. If you can afford, and you don't even have to get the API 500 series because they're still low, they'll still be pricey. You can actually get like Cappy. And who else makes some really good? I think even the SSL 500 series EQs are pretty affordable in the 500 series. So it really varies on there's a lot out there. There's so many 500 series out there. So okay, let me see. DLC. Okay, it says, let me clarify. A filter as an effective tool in sound scoping or creations. I mean, SSL plugins. I mean, they were shaper box. Gotcha. Okay. Well, when you think about it, that's what EQ really is basically you're trying to clean up frequencies. And the number one mistake when it comes to EQ is most people tend to boost, not realizing they thinking if I cut, it's not gonna. I'll cut for it won't sound as good. But actually, a lot of times you want to cut certain frequencies to make it sound better. And always not always boosting. Here's the thing about they was talking about this when it comes to Pultec EQs. And they were like, well, you boost and attenuate at the same time. But really when you boost a certain frequency on a Pultec and you attenuate, what you're doing, it's almost like you're thickening or thinning out something that you're boosting at the same time. That's the interesting effect of a Pultec, but making it sound musical. So it's kind of like I'm gonna boost 8K, but I'm gonna attenuate to thin it out to make it sound cleaner in the mix on a Pultec. Secret Studio says, have I any experience with tinnitus? So do you find effects ability? I filed for tinnitus, but they deny my claim for tinnitus, even though I took the hearing test. They try to, even though naturally from jumping out of planes and being around aircraft and going to the range, there's always a ringing there. But I think maybe when I did my for those that don't know, when we go as veterans, when we go do our claims, we have to go and see. They call a CMP exam, which stands for compensation and pension exam. And you go to these doctors and they add these questions, but sometimes they ask in a way they try to trick you up to make like your symptoms are not as severe, whatever the case. And so I think for me, when I filed my tinnitus claim, I think he said he had said something like, well, I got this little radio or something. And he's like, I don't know how, whatever, something to the point where he's trying to get me to say I can hear it. And the thing with tinnitus is just because you got tinnitus doesn't mean you can't hear. It's just that dang constant little bit of a frequency that won't go away. So that's all that is with the tinnitus. So yeah. But I think if with that, it probably would put me at 100%. So who knows? Plus, I was at rhinitis. My nose is always running. So who knows? Mecha Destructo. Okay, gotcha. Oh, he said with the U89 versus the U87, they're not. Yeah, the capsules are different. Not. Yeah, I think I don't know what kind of capsule. I think the U87 was a K47 capsule. Not sure. Your appetizer. That's it. Oh yeah, that's the word I was looking for. In a real situation, that cat would, anything like that. What I do find funny about those AI videos is they've been doing videos where it'll be the Chihuahua, barking at this, Rottweiler between the glass. It's just until they open the glass, and then the Rottweiler's looking at it, then all of a sudden the Chihuahua was like, which is that's not too far for some people. Some people are a lot of bark. They get into altercation, kick your back, all that, and then and then all of a sudden, like, there ain't no air and opportunity, and then it's a different tune. Rob Portick says, I can tell AI, okay, you better than I am, because there's a lot of AI music there's some AI music that I'm like, oh, I can't tell. It's like, oh, that's AI. And I have pretty good distinctive hearing, but if you can tell it's AI, you better than I can. So see. Well, yeah, he said the U89, your Newman products are usually pretty stellar. Says, dear, can you look at the Tascam tape deck question? I don't want to type that all over again. What was, I don't know. You scrolled up. Let me go back to the Tascam tape question. What'd you ask about the Tascam? I don't know. You might have to type it because I got a lot of chat here. So I must have missed it. So I must have missed it because I don't see the question. But anyway, I had to look for it later because I don't see it. But anyhow, okay. Well, I have to check it out later. So, oh, Dia says, I'm still waiting to hear Mark's new musicology song. I bet it's $100. I bet $100 that it sounds like if it isn't love. Oh, if I do my own song. No, but you will get a chance to hear you will get a chance to hear the CD album that I'm doing. So now I'm gonna go back to DL. I'm gonna go back to DL because he retracted some of his statements. But anyhow, what I can say about Tascam is that let me tell you, Tascam is one of those companies. Their quality, their sound quality is a hidden gem. And I remember I wanted another. We used the Tascam M520 console in the recording studio. A buddy of mine had a Tascam M520. And the EQ, because the highs, mid, and low were also sweepable. You could the EQ on that thing was just amazing. And kind of find out it has transformers in it too. But that console, when I looked at it later on, the only reason why I never didn't want to get one is because it has RCA connections. It doesn't have It doesn't XLR and TRS connections, but it has RCA connections. And I'm like, I don't want to get a bunch of get a bunch of um RCA and try to convert them to TRS. So that was the only thing. So my Mecha Destruction says, yeah, all that AI stuff has unfortunately been pushed a lot on YouTube. All I look at things that relate to music production and engineering. Yeah, because it's gonna be so bad now that even YouTube videos are gonna be AI. They're not gonna be real. They're gonna be some AI, you know. Um, that's how bad it's getting. It's getting so bad that they might even make AI videos of mine. And they like, I saw your video that you put out. Like, I'll be like, what video? You didn't see your video, and I go out and turn out it's AI. So he says I have tonight is about 7100 hertz. So I'll just write me in the key 8 to match the that's funny. So to sum up the topic, like I said before, I better move these screws before they fall down into one of the channel strips, and I'm gonna be mad if these one of these screws gets. So, all right, to sum it up, to me, I think it's all choice today. That's all it is. I just prefer hardware as much as possible, but some situations, the only downside of hardware can take up a lot of room. So Rob purchased no live meeting last week. No, I was occupied last week. That's why I didn't do it last week. The only thing is I will not always be on here every week. So I hope that, I try to be on here as much as I possibly can every week, but I'm not gonna be able to be on here every week. So just want to put that out now. So welcome, Ice Mike. So let me see. I believe you too. Lakers sure. So I'm gonna make an IV on wire. I love the SSLB6 and tell everyone why they should get one. I believe you. That's the sad part. I actually believe you because anyone ever saw that video, I was like, I'm real critical on that. It's not that it's the SSL Big Six as mixers. The problem is I had a problem with their price, trying to justify what they were giving you, and the unknown, untrained person when it comes to mixing consoles thinking they're getting an excellent deal. But people that know consoles and know, the whole they're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting ripped off for that price. A deal says the Tascam 202 MK2 tape deck. I have to learn to how to track singing through it without latency if you use it. It does have RCA cables. Isn't there RCA quarter-inch cables? They make any type of RCA to any conversion of any type of cable, TRS to TS, TSR to RCA, TRS to XLR. They do. Here's the reason why, and I'll say this. The reason why most studio companies really got away from RCA is because RCAs are not balanced like TRS are. And the TR stands for tip, ring, and sleeve. But what is happening is what's going on is kind of like if you take an XLR, which is which is basically X is for signal, X for right, R for, and then L for left, right? So what's happening is the signal, for most that people don't know, is, and it's almost like knolling. It's almost like balancing. You got a ground, and one signal wave is doing this over this ground. It's just doing this. Well, the other signal is balancing, so they even out. And what that does is you get balanced signal. You don't get any these, so that way you're not picking up unwanted interference noise with a balanced cable. An unbalanced cable, you'll pick up noise. And especially the longer the length of cable, if you have a bunch of roll of unbalanced cables, you tend to pick up ground loop noises. You can even pick up radio frequency noises. And so you don't want that, because that gets, if you're trying to record, you're going to get these unwanted signal noises in your recordings and everything else. And a lot of times you basically, you have a lot of unbalanced cables wrapped, but you're creating an antenna. You don't want to do that. So that's the reason why they started making more gear that's balanced. And they got away from RCAs and just mainly made it DB25 connections, DAC connections, DAC connections, XLR balanced connections, or TRS connections. Even though a lot of people, you can hook up your outboard gear with unbalanced cables, but if it's a TRS connection, like you read your manual, if it's a balanced connection, you want to use balanced cables, believe it or not. So that's the reason why they got rid of RCA. So that's the reason why. And Tascam, that was one of the things that hurt Tascam, because they were making a lot of gear, EQs, their consoles, and everything else with RCA connections. And they didn't want to change their, I forget what you call it. I guess their, whatever you want to call it, to convert it so their gear becomes all whatever. But all Tascam had to do was start making newer gear where you got rid of RCAs. So, but I guess they didn't want to do that. They just kind of fell, And so anyhow, oh yeah, plus you need, believe it or not, cables are probably the most underrated thing talked about in recording studios, cabling, because there's a lot of them. So basically, that's what we're talking about on that. Yeah, doubles the signal. Basically, you're balancing it out. You got one counting the other one, so you're not, it's almost like with what houses run a 3-phase system, an AB3, 1, 2, 3. Because if you look at it, each one of those they're out of phase, so they balance each. I can't get into the electrical term of it but yeah. Anyhow, you'll be amazed of, when you run balance connections, you'll be amazed how your noise will go away. So let me see. Do I just spent 600 dB? Yeah, DB25 cables are not cheap. So going back to originally what I was saying about going back to DL's question about that Tascam tape. My question is, why would you want to run signal through that tape machine? That tape cassette. Why would you want to do that? Just curious. Unless you're trying to get a certain harmonic character or something, but I don't know why would you want to do that. Oh yeah, Rob Predictions. Hardware takes space, electrical maintenance, and creates heat. Which is true. It does. But hardware also creates harmonic saturation, distortion, and just color and tone and harmonics and sonic character. So I know you wouldn't. I was just teasing Legacy, talking about would I make a video. I know you wouldn't. Let's see. So and that's a great thing about with Cat 5 and Dante and so forth, is you can move a lot of signal. A lot of time with Dante, you can move 64 channels of signal with Dante, or whatever the case, AES connections and stuff like that. Cat 6, Cat 5, Instead of having this gigantic, humongous snake, trying to run whatever the case. So Cat is, yeah, it says Cat is rock, especially for digital situations. You have a Digico console, pushing 128 channels. Yeah, you don't run a, you're gonna run a long Cat 6 cable, but it's they're way more manageable than trying to run a gigantic snake, the old analog snake on an analog console. Uh, so what do I think about the Tascam DB2432? Never really researched it, don't have a lot of opinion on it. Uh, so I'll basically say which cable are decent. I mean, you can spend like I have Hosa cables and stuff like that, but if you want, like if you're willing to spend money on like Megami, I mean they're just expensive. They're better quality cable, but if you know that you're gonna set a situation where you're gonna plug up some cables and they're not gonna move, you're not gonna be, whatever case, they're not gonna be stepped on, or whatever the case, they're gonna be out of the way, and you're gonna set them, you're gonna set and forget type of cabling where you just hook something and that's it. It never get unhooked or whatever. You'll be perfectly fine with Hosa cables. You'll be perfectly fine. But whatever the case. But it just depends. If you're going to be moving a lot of cables and whatever case, then that's where you got to kind of think about that. So yeah, Hosa cables, they're okay. I have Hosa cables. Like I said, if I like behind my preamp, that preamp in the rack, it ain't moving. So I got some Hosa cables running to it, that it's not moving. So I don't have to worry about the cable now. A lot of cables I got here, and I had to be more careful because I'm constantly it's not a lot of space. So I got to really be careful with those cables. So I started upgrading. So I've got tons and tons of more cables in the other room because I kept buying cables and upgrading cables and getting better cables. Seems like it's never ending. Just like with mic stands, I'm starting to invest in more mic stands, and I got to order some more racks for the gear that isn't rack. I got to get some more racks for that. And then I still got my ground stuff. I can still finish my star ground. So I'm not even close to being done, but yeah. But Tascam, going back to what Dio was saying about the Tascam itself, Tascam makes their products are great. And they sound good. The Tascam had made it's called the M700. It was actually a way more affordable option than the SSL, but it just never caught on. Which, now you can't even find that console for sale anywhere. I think there were last few places I saw a Tascam M700 console was on Reverb and it got sold. Here's a question for some of the people that's watching. I would like to get those people's opinion on the Neve Capricorn digital console that came out. I think it came out in 1990, 91. What are people's thoughts on that? I would love to, anyone from me with the Neve Capricorn digital console. So, yeah, yes, a digital console. It's a nice looking console. There was one for sale. I think it was for 20 grand or something like that. But I really was interested in that console, but they was like, well, are you gonna, because Neve doesn't support it anymore? And I'm like, I'll be afraid. Unlike an analog console, especially a module console, where you could, if a channel goes bad, you can always yank the channel out, fix the channel. But when it comes to digital consoles, they're not as easy to fix, and that you probably want more technical and maintenance support for it. And I'm like, and on top of that, we're talking the '90s. You know, how good did it sound compared to like the analog Neves? So, so oh, Basement says I have Casino cables. How do they? I've never used Casino cable, so I don't know. Um, that I don't know. Never used them. So if you're using them, and the question would be, are you having issues with them? You know, a lot of times, you get a cable and you move it away and then you make noise or whatever. It's a bad cable. Um, I got a multimeter. I just probe out to make sure that any cable. Um, yeah. Oh, Max says I've never heard of that Neve. I just Google it. Neve Capricorn. It's about the same size as any analog console. Um, but I was talking because for those that don't know, I live not that far from Nashville. And so, there's Vintage King and places like that. I can always go to Nashville. And Nashville has a big support center because Nashville is one of the three major hubs for recording studios. So there's a lot of maintenance and stuff that can be done in Nashville. But I was down there talking to some guys down at Vintage King, and they's like, "Well, we don't know anyone that could service a Neve Capricorn versus like getting a Neve VR console." Yeah, it's a big console. Yeah, it's a huge and trust me, it would be as big and as heavy as any other analog console. So, oh yeah, basically said I have no issues with. Then I would say I would, if those Casino cables are working great, um, then I would say go for it. Scott says, have I ever used the Roland FA06? No, I have a buddy of mine that had one. But it's because I have an actual Roland Phantom. Roland FA is like it's almost like the Mod X compared to the Montage. The FA is the lower, the lower grade board to the Rolands. Just like the Chrome was the lower grade version to the Cronus. He had one. I played it, but because I have a Roland Phantom, I never really thought about looking at an FA06. It played okay. Yeah, it was an entry level. It played okay, but because I was so used to I was so used to more of all the controls, just like with the Mod X, I'm still, I was always, should I get a Mod X, the new Mod X M6, M7, or should I just get a Montage? And because I'm a keyboard player and I like full functionality, I think I would rather just get the Montage. Just like with the Roland, I just rather got the Phantom over the FA. Just like I have a Cronus. I don't even play my Chrome anymore because I got a Cronus. So yeah. Oh yeah. Are you talking about? Yep. If you talking about the FA, yeah. If you have an FA06 and you got an option, get the regular Roland Phantom, especially the new Phantom EX. Get the Roland Phantom EX. It just does way more. You'll be a lot more happier. Oh yeah, CC Funk says I see it. That's the Neve Capricorn. I think one time I've seen as cheap as 14,000. And people may say 14,000, that's expensive. Not when it comes to large format consoles, it ain't. You add add a couple of zeros behind that. That was the average price of consoles back in the day, 1.4 million or whatever. I think the cheapest SL was going for about 800,000. Consoles were expensive. Consoles can still be expensive, but consoles are expensive. But because more people are not building commercial studios and more people just aren't going to fit a gigantic, humongous SSL console in the house or a Neve console. These are the reasons why consoles became cheap. And a lot of recording studios have closed. So because of that, people's like, well, I ain't got a room for a vintage Neve, so or Neve VR or whatever, I Neve 5088 or whatever. I got no room for it. So that's why, at one point they're trying to sell them because, and on top of that, unless you get those consoles converted, those consoles, the power supplies, like my power supply is sitting over here, you can't even hear it running for this Allen Heath. You can't even hear it running, but you can definitely hear the power supplies on an SSL console. That's why they have a HVAC room for the power supplies. Let me see. That's cheap for that. Yes, yeah. As far as that console, yes, super cheap. And I think what it is because they didn't really make a whole lot. So I'm afraid it's kind of like I was looking one time. We recorded on an Atari Concept console, and I saw it had gotten down to, it was so dirt cheap. That thing was, when it originally popped up, it popped up for $2,600. That console was $50,000 brand new in the 90s. I saw it for $2,600, and it never sold. I think it ended up eventually selling for like $100. The problem with that console, the Atari Concept console is an excellent sounding console. The problem is the main portion of it is completely controlled, and it runs by Windows 95. So the problem is if the operating system or that PC and the software goes out, the console is not going to work. So I was like, that was the reason why I never got it. But that console was huge, way bigger than my Allen Heath. But I never bought it because that was my biggest fear. And that's what I'm kind of scared of consoles like that Neve Capricorn, because if the main computer system go out, anything that digitally control like that, if it goes out, you just got a big gigantic boat anchor. Legacy said, my wife wants a Cord Nautilus for Christmas, but I've been looking at what's currently out there to see anything better for. Get the Cord Cronus. The Cronus 3 is out. The Cronus is the Cronus. It's the reason why it's the flagship for Korg. And you're going to want all those controls. You're going to want all the sliders and all that. Look for a Cronus. Even if you got, like me, I don't have a new Cronus. I have the Cronus X. It's an older board. But that thing is that keyboard is a beast. Bass player only said, you have a Mackie 328 bus, which is a, thing. I never used to like those Mackies. I was in a studio that had a Mackie 328 and had 24 channel expansion on it. And but here in the reason why I didn't like it because in the 90s, I didn't know what I was doing. And I am not ashamed to admit that. I didn't know what I was doing. Now that I know what I'm doing, I could revisit a Mackie 328 because I actually have the Behringer MX8000, which is basically a Mackie 328 knockoff, right? So and I know the Behringer that I have is, people rack on Behringer, but that's a nice sounding for low end console. That's a nice sounding console for what it is. So I know the Mackie is definitely going to sound better than that Behringer. CC Funk says a 5088 Neve will run you back, I don't know, $150,000, depending on the channel count. So Legacy says, I'm considering getting a Neve 8424. Don't do that. Don't do that. So I got a 48 channels of Neve preamps I could run through. No, don't do that. No. Legacy, don't do it. I would tell you, you'd be better off go get you an AMEC, which is a Neve, because Rupert Neve designed AMEC. He worked with AMEC. You know, find you an AMEC or something like that, or an MCI console. Because that A24 is like what you're going to pay for it. You only get you get all them channels and only maybe, and I know you say you got a bunch of Neve preamps, but you don't even get an EQ on an 8424. You don't even get the EQ. If you're going to have a bunch of Neve, especially if you got a Neve, if you got, let's say you have 12 1073 channel strips of Neve, you don't even need an 8424. You already got the sound of the Neve with those Neve preamps and channel strips by itself. Oh, Matthew said we recorded to a board like that in that 2002. It was okay, no analog. Yeah, it's a digital board, but it was supposed to be a higher quality sounding Neve than as a digital board than most. But I was just wondering what people thought about it, like so. Oh, base, yeah. See, let's see. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, just for the price of the Neve 8024. Let me turn on my Mac right here, right quick. I'm just going to search the internet right quick. I just want to search the internet right quick before I get off right quick. I just want to see the price of that. What is the price of the 8424? What Sweetwater is asking for it? Or Legacy or Vintage King? What is Vintage King asking for that? I would just rather, personally, for me, I would rather look for an MCI or an AMEC console. Because to me, if I'm gonna have a console, I want to have, at least want to have my choice of having at least 8 mic pre's on it. Or I might want to have at least some EQ control with some bus assignments and all that, and some auxiliary sends. That's just me. I agree with Matt too. I think you would like an older SS. I just that's one of those consoles that need, I consider the Neve 8424 overhyped, just like I consider the SSL Big 6 overhyped. But I would say this: if you want one and that's what you want, hey, go for it. There's nothing wrong with, don't let any people, like, in my opinion, don't know. If you want one, get one. As because they are a nice looking console, but our bass player said the MCI looks like an old dinosaur, but yeah, but the sound quality of it is unparalleled. How about that one? I said there's 24,000 retail. I can get 8424 for 12. Like I said, if you want one, go for it. It's like having to me, it's just like a big gigantic Summy mixer. That's how, Okay. But she's already I already booted up my Mac anyway. But since you already said about 24K, that's about right. That's about right. So, but anyhow, so that's going to do it for this live stream. Like I said, if you want one, I would say, hey, go for it. They're a nice looking console. I just wish it's just like with the SSL Big 6. I just wish that Neve, would give you more options. Like, to me personally, I like running stuff through a console because for the sound of it, and I would prefer, if I was going to spend that kind of money, I would rather get an SSL XL desk and put my own versions of 500 series EQs and stuff like that in it. That's what I would get. I would get an SSL XL desk for about the same money. So that's just me. But hey, it does have the Need transformers in it. So there's nothing wrong with that. But it would anything that's coming straight from your interface through that console, even if it's that Neve 8424, it's definitely gonna help the sonics of your. So that's gonna do it for this this edition of live stream, and I appreciate everyone for tuning in. And we'll see you on the next live stream. Like I said, I don't get a chance. I usually do this every Sunday, but sometimes I don't get a chance to do it every Sunday. Maddie. So I hope everyone have a happy holidays and Thanksgiving coming up. So this Thursday, I'm about to throw down. Got to make my roasted, my glazed ham and with the roasted turkey and candy yams and all that good stuff, with the butter rolls and sweet potato pie and all that. Yep. So going to be cooking it up. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. I think next time I'm just going to talk about microphones. Oh yeah, I got to make you hungry. Hey man, it's that time of the year. It's just, I know it's a Christmas song, but when it comes to Thanksgiving, it's the most wonderful time of the year. No, stop. But anyhow, yeah, I want to talk about microphones. I really want to get deep down into microphones next week. So, other than that, and then I think after that, I want to talk about preamps. I really want to get deep into preamps. So those will be the next two topics. So yeah, we're getting into the microphone thing next week in preamps. So I'll see y'all next time. Hope everyone have a happy holidays, and we'll see you. Y'all have a great one.